Honest question. What would you say if I went out and I bought a really expensive car? I got a loan for it, signed my name on the dotted line, and then I decided not to pay off that loan. And I came up to you and I said, hey, I got this car. It was really expensive. It should have never been that expensive. You got to pay off that debt. No, listen, I thought it was a good deal. I did it for the fun car experience, but it didn't really work out. And like I said, it should have never been that expensive to begin with. It wasn't my fault. You had to pay it. Would you? What's up, team? My name's Kenny Lobos, and today we're going to talk about Joe Biden's new announcement for the largest student loan forgiveness plan we've ever seen. So I want to talk about a couple of things. I want to talk about what this means for you. How much will it cost? Does Joe Biden have the authority to do this? Who's getting screwed? And so much more. So just stay tuned and we're going to jump right in. So first and foremost, what is this plan? Well, Joe Biden is essentially wiping out up to $10,000 for anyone with federal student loans that's making less than $125,000 a year or $250,000 a year if they're married, and up to $20,000 if they have federal student loans and they also have the Pell Grant. Now, this is far and away from the type of student loan relief that we've seen in recent past. For example, after the pandemic, right around March, everyone was able to go into forbearance, not just for their student loans, but for their home loans as well. And basically what that meant is you can put a pause on your monthly payments. So let's say you got fired, you're going through hardships, just hold off, keep your money for a little while, kind of weather the storm, and then when you're ready, you can go back to paying. So that's what everyone was able to do, and a lot of people took advantage of that starting in March of 2020. That forbearance plan was supposed to end now on August 31st of 2022. So essentially you had 2 years and change to kind of, recover and get your stuff back together and jump back into the loan, because these are still debts that are owed. Well, in addition to this insanely large forgiveness plan to actually wipe off student debt, Joe Biden and the Biden administration is also pushing back that forbearance date to December of this year, December 31st. So essentially what that means is that now, instead of starting your first payment in September, you will start your first payment if you took that forbearance in January of 2023. Now, that forbearance pushback isn't a huge deal, but it kind of is once it's coupled with this exorbitant loan forgiveness plan, which someone is paying for. So I want to talk about how much this is actually costing, because a lot of people feel like this is a free forgiveness and it's just a relief and the government's going to cover it and we're good to go. It's not hurting anyone. That's not true. It's hurting the taxpayer. Okay, the taxpayer is the one that's floating the bill, and it's not a small bill whatsoever. We're gonna get into how much this costs. So this is coming directly from the University of Pennsylvania, UPenn. This is coming straight from their website. We're gonna take a look at their analysis. Check it out. We estimate that debt cancellation alone will cost up to $519 billion. I'll tell you what, $519 billion, that's quite a hefty bill. Loan forbearance will cost another $16 billion. So that's that loan forbearance that we were talking about, just pushing it back until January instead of starting now in September. And it says the new income driven repayment program, IDR, would cost another $70 billion, increasing the total plan cost to $605 billion. However, depending on future IDR programs, the income driven repayment program, details to be released on potential behavioral, i.e. non-static changes, total plan cost could exceed $1 trillion. Guys, this is insane. $1 trillion on this loan forgiveness. That is a lot of money to be going into this student loan forgiveness plan. And what's interesting about it is that this never went through Congress. This isn't a bill that was passed that then made it to Joe Biden's desk for him to sign. Joe Biden and the Biden administration completely forgoed Congress, which begs the question, does the president even have the authority to do this? Of course, the Republicans, they're all like, hell no, it's not. Like, come on, bro. Like, what are we even doing here? But the thing is, even Democrats are saying the same thing. Nancy Pelosi was one of the most prominent Democrats that said last month that Joe Biden doesn't have the power to do this.
People think that the president of the United States has the power for debt forgiveness. He does not. He does not.
He does not.
He can postpone, he can delay, but he does not have that power. That has to be an act of Congress. Suppose your family was not, your child just decided they want to, at this time, not want to go to college, but you're paying taxes to forgive somebody else's obligations. You may not be happy about that.
The president cannot add to government spending with an executive order. It has to be an act of Congress. He can't add to the deficit either. Anything that has to do with essentially money being allocated to one place or the other, especially something this exorbitant, it has to be an act of Congress. So there's a lot of Democrats that are standing up against this as well. Of course, the Republicans are not feeling it. And so it's really interesting that the Joe Biden administration has the cojones to come out here and say, like, look, hey, this is what we're doing. We're just forgiving all these loans. Okay. It's unusual. We've never seen this before with any other presidency. It doesn't even sound like he has the authority to do it. Right now, his authority is shaky on this one, shaky at best. I haven't seen anything that's extremely clear that says, yes, Joe Biden has the authority to do this, and here's why. This is the, there's none of that. We're going to see what happens, what plays out. There's some members of Congress that I have already said, hey, we're going to sue the presidency if this goes through, because he's foregoing what is supposed to be the job of Congress, and he doesn't have the authority to do this. Definitely doesn't sound like he has the authority to just wave his finger and sign off on $1 trillion to go towards student loan debt, or 600 billion or 200 billion, whatever estimate that you want to use. It's not seeming like Joe Biden actually has the authority to do this. If not, I think that there'd be some pretty clear information saying, yes, according to this law or this bill or whatever, the president can do this. And I haven't seen that at all. So who's getting screwed on this deal? Well, someone is. Like I said, this is not free. Someone has to pick up the tab, and it's the taxpayer. And if you didn't go to college, that's the first one I want to talk about. If you didn't go to college, this doesn't benefit you whatsoever. It only costs you money. If you forego to college for whatever reason, whether you thought it was too expensive or you wanted to pursue a career outside of university, or whatever reason you might have, and there's really good reasons not to go to college. For example, it's expensive as heck. You can also go to a trade school and learn how to fix ACs, or be a plumber or an electrician or a software developer, for example. And all of that is much less expensive than university and yields much more direct results. So there's a lot of reason why not to go to college. And now for every person who didn't go to university and made it and has a job and pays their taxes, now has to float the tab for folks who did go to college. And by the way, statistically speaking, people with a degree, with a college degree, have a higher income than people who don't on average. So we're taxing the folks who may not have as high of an income to float the bill for people who are making up to $125,000 a year. Another thing to think about is, what if you did go to college and you worked hard to pay off your debts, right? You didn't mess around in college. You studied, you got a good GPA, you went for a good major. There was evidence to show that you could probably get a pretty decent paying job. You chose that major and you worked hard at it. And once you got your job, you started paying off your loans and you paid off your student loan debt. What about you? We're going to take your money so that we can pay all of these people who didn't work as hard as you, who didn't make as smart of life decisions as you. And we're just going to give it to them and help them pay off their loans. Well, no one helped you pay off your loans. So how is this fair? Another very large group of people, and this is a bucket that I fall into, is veterans. There are people who said, yes, I do want to go to college, but I'm not going to go into student debt, $20, $30, $40, $80,000 to get my education. So I'm going to earn it by serving my country. They go, they do their time, they come out and they go to college and it's paid for. What the Biden administration is saying essentially is, thanks for doing that. Now give us your taxpayer dollars, because we're going to pay the universities for all these other kids who didn't make the sacrifice that you did and serve their country and earn their right to a university. So back to the analogy at the beginning of the video, would you pay off someone else's debt? For most of us, the answer is absolutely not. If you went into debt because you thought that this university was going to be something that was going to be beneficial to you, and you went through the college experience, you chose your major, you did whatever it is that you wanted to do while you were in college, you did all of these things and you weren't able to pay it back, so I have to pay it for you? That doesn't make any sense, because no one's paying my bill. Okay, you are responsible for the things that you sign up for. If you decide to incur debt and you willingly, voluntarily sign your name on the dotted line, you are now responsible for that debt, just like every other adult. If I go and I get a loan to buy a car, I am responsible now for that loan. And no matter what happens to me, there's no taxpayer that's coming to the rescue to now cover the payment of my car. And things do happen. I'm not trying to sound insensitive. Some people go to college, they weren't able to finish, so they didn't get their degree for a legitimate reason. Some people will go and they thought they chose a good major and it was completely career driven, not personally interest driven. And they graduated, learned that it didn't generate as much money, and now they're struggling to pay. Things absolutely do happen. But that doesn't relieve you of the responsibility. If I got a car and I got a 6-figure car because I just got this amazing 6-figure job and I'm like, dude, I'll be able to pay this, no problem. I can afford this easily. And then all of a sudden I lose that job. Well, hey man, like I'm still responsible for the car that I bought, even if a crazy pandemic came through that, basically forced everyone back into their homes. A lot of people got fired or they couldn't do their job because of COVID restrictions or mandates or whatever. That is still their responsibility because they signed their name on that dotted line and they are now responsible for the terms of that agreement. So the people who are all for this and say, yes, the government should pay for those debts, they should have paid for the education in the first place and we should have free education and free this and that. These are typically not the people who are paying. Okay, the people who are paying for this are the hardworking taxpayer. And yes, there is some overlap because if you went to university and you work and you pay your taxes, I understand that, yes, you are also floating the bill, which is even more of a reason to say like, hold up, this isn't worth it. You pay your own debt, let others pay their own debt. We also get into the issue of what is this really solving? Is it really solving any problems or are we just putting a band-aid on it? The problem is right now that universities are exorbitantly expensive, that kids can go into these student loan debts no problem. There's no, in-depth credit check, income check, make sure you're able to pay back this loan. It's just, if you want it, you can get it. And then they go on to a major that doesn't yield results, that isn't adequate enough. The expertise, the skills, the education that they get isn't enough to translate into the workforce and build a career that can actually afford to pay this exorbitant student loan that they just incurred. That is the root of the problem. And the reason why we got there in the first place is because of government-backed loans. When a loan is government-backed, that essentially means that the lender is giving me the money, for example, if I'm borrowing it, but the government tells the lender like, hey, don't worry about it. Either he's gonna pay or we're gonna pay. But there's no scenario where you don't get your money, all right? This is a risk-free, don't worry about it. He's good for it, I'll back him up. What this means and what this causes is that now the lenders don't have to do their due diligence and scrutinize my profile to make sure that I am able to pay this loan. For every other loan program or any other industry, let's look at car loans, for example, since we were talking about that earlier. If you're gonna go get a car loan, those aren't government backed. So that means that the lender is jumping into agreement directly with me, for example. So they're going to make sure as much as they can that I am capable of paying back that loan. The way that they do this is they look at your credit, right? How good are you at paying back your debts? They also look at your income. They look at all of these factors because they're trying to, they're running a business. They're trying to minimize their risk as much as possible and increase the chances of them getting their money back. There's also the option of a cosigner. So if I didn't qualify for the loan, you can get a cosigner. The cosigner can be your spouse. Your cosigner can be your parents, your grandparents, especially if you're a kid. Your parents a lot of times make an excellent cosigner. And basically what that means is instead of the loan being government backed, they're backed by someone else who has credit and who has income. And that is essentially the guarantee that, hey, if this kid doesn't pay it, don't worry, I'm on the hook. My credit's on the hook. My everything's on the hook, right? I'm putting my name down and guaranteeing that this person is going to be able to pay. Because these loans are government backed, all of that goes away and the lender can just sign off these checks. What does that mean for the universities? It means now that kids have access to a tremendous amount of money to go get their education, and the universities know this. So what do? They start bumping up their tuition. However, It's not like the universities also increase the amount of value that they're giving to the student in terms of the education and the level of career that they can get immediately after graduating. All they did was jack up the price. They also got all these fancy amenities and, hey, check us out because we have pools, we have gyms, check out our amazing athletic team, look at this amazing stadium, look at all these kids and the college experience. They're selling you on things that you shouldn't be paying for. Let's not forget the purpose of an education and university is to build a career. That is the primary reason why people go to college, is so that they can be successful. We all know this. It is up to the government to fix what they created. And they created this by these government-backed loans. Remove the government-backed loans. Allow kids to get into these loans only if they qualify, if they have a co-signer. Allow the deal and the agreement to be directly with the person taking the loan and the person giving the loan. That would immediately stop lenders from just blindly signing checks and sending money to these universities for a kid's loan, and all of a sudden they're going to be like, whoa, all right, you mean the government's not just going to pay me automatically? I can just give out money, with my eyes closed? Okay, well, now I'm going to start doing my research a little bit more. I'm going to treat this more like a home loan or a car loan and make sure that whoever I'm giving my money to, I'm making sure that they can pay me back, that I increase the chances and the likelihood of them paying me back by making sure that they have good credit, good income, all the things that we already talked about. That is the root of the problem, not the fact that kids all of a sudden have debt. This is not solving the problem. This is just putting a band-aid on it. And anyone who does just a little bit of research into this can kind of start to figure that out. So it begs the question, what is this forgiveness plan really about? Really what this is Joe Biden and the Biden administration's attempt at buying your votes. This is just them saying, hey, we're going to put money in your pocket. Don't forget who paid you. Don't forget who cleared out your loans. Come out and vote come in November and in 2024. Like, it's not really solving the problem. This is not helping Americans. It's putting Americans more in debt. It's creating more of a burden for everyone else who didn't go to university and even people who did go to college, because rest assured, you're going to see this coming up on your taxes. This is just a bribe. Don't let them buy your vote. Don't let them manipulate you. Do your own research and make sure that whoever you're voting for truly earned it. But that's just my 2 cents. Let me know what you guys think. Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I just missing something? Let me know down in the comment section below. I will be responding to everything down there. And if you even got this far, please consider hitting that like button. That helps me out a ton. And if you want to hit the subscribe button, that'd be awesome, especially if you want to see more content like this one. You can also hit that bell notification so that you don't miss anything moving forward. This is a brand new channel that I created because I wanted to get involved in the conversation. I wanted to grow with the community, and that means that any interaction that you have with this channel is greatly appreciated. With that being said, my name is Kenny Lobos. Thanks for spending time with me today. I'll catch you on the next one.